Hello, everyone. Today I would like to speak on the topic meaningful education. It seems to be a very general topic, and everyone thinks they know so much and they can speak on this topic, but this is not true. It needs experience and research to speak on the importance of meaningful education and how it can be brought about. Today I am before you as a small and humble educationist. On behalf of all my educators and staff, to speak to you on the real meaning of education and its ideals. What is difficult is to create something unique, creative, and beautiful, which is not copied from anywhere. This is what we want to do in our school every day. Inquire, research, analyze, synthesize, create, evaluate, and apply our learnt and intuitive knowledge. For this, we need to use all our human faculties, our head, hand, and heart, and not just use our head, which makes one head heavy. Many years back, Gandhiji said, "End doesn't justify the means." So the means and the process in education are very important for us. It is of utmost importance in education. The participation of all students, as each and every child, is important for us. Swami Vivekananda said, "Education is drawing out of the pupils and not dumping in of information." This is what we need to follow. Lord Buddha prayed, "Tamoso ma Jyotirgamaya," from darkness lead us to light, many centuries ago. Education is all about leading oneself from darkness to life, and life is all about moving from weakness to strength, from knowledge to wisdom, from fear to courage, from hatred to love, from love to universal well-being, and thus from attachment to the final liberation. A truly educated man, we are told, is free from spite and passion. True education is meant to help us to fulfill our duty, our mission, our dharma, and our destiny. Is our education helping us to lead us from darkness to light? Or are we falling deeper into caves of darkness, led by selfish and fast leaders in this world of information and networking? Graduates, postgraduates, MBAs, software engineers, and doctors are multiplying. Knowledge, that is information, is spreading fast. Are our homes happier? Are the youth stronger, more vital, and more appreciative of the deeper values of life? Or are they becoming more selfish and greedy? Are they growing in the darkness of desire? Desire for money, desire for power, desire for fame, and desire for pleasures. I point only to the excesses. Materialization of intellect, worship of power and organization, at the expense of spiritual idealism, cult of ambition, and cleverness cannot help us lead a balanced life. If our souls are meager today, it is because our education has lost touch with the great soul of nature and with great leaders and educators. There is organization, there is an elaborate machinery of education, but where is the soul? Where is the conscience? This is where I would like to talk about meaningful education. Where are the leaders of yesteryears like Mahatma Gandhi, B.R. Ambedkar, Bhagat Singh, Subhash Chandra Bose, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Aurobindo Ghosh, and educationist J. Krishnamurti, who led by example and who battled for the true progress of humankind to bring about meaningful education? Today we have leaders who are merely men of words and not men of action. They fail to lead because there is a clear noticeable duality in their thought, word, and action. This goes to prove why they fail to lead effectively. They do not understand that silence speaks more than their sugar-coated words. They do not realize that their body language reveals more about them than their words. They do not realize that their real behavior is known by the small things that they do in their daily lives and not by the big things. The true worth of a person can never be concealed behind a handsome face or his great oratory skills or his great networking or information compiling skills. A leader may superficially involve himself with the benefit of others and pose himself as a very helpful and caring being in a very subtle manner without letting out the reality, his selfish nature, to impress his followers, but within days one can identify the superficiality in his nature if he doesn't bring about a change in his heart. Many who are in so-called positions of power make the mistake of thinking that they are custodians of values too. They need to understand that they can never be proponents of values until they themselves set examples for others to follow. Many of our leaders are great orators, actors, and networkers. What they lack are depth in thinking and broad-mindedness. How can we bring about a change through meaningful education? How can we bring about true leaders? The first point of realization for a leader is that he is not a superman, and that people who are led by him may have better creative ideas and may be far ahead in maturity and broad-mindedness, irrespective of their age, gender, color, creed, and amount of experience. This can happen only when the leader has the intelligence to lend a patient ear to his followers, a genuine one, not a superficial one. A leader needs to have a fellowship with those who are led by him. To understand such wisdom, one doesn't need to read large volumes of books, compile information, network, or travel widely. One only needs to have right intelligence and some bit of common sense. Long back, Swami Vivekananda said, "Awake and arise, men of India. India is falling." According to me, intelligent is one who does not think the way he has been taught, who thinks instinctively, naturally, spontaneously, who has not been programmed and is not robotized. Intelligent thinkers are free thinkers. They are people who create, whether in the field of philosophical thought or art or music or dance or sports, which comes from within, not from outside. And mind you all, everyone is intelligent, only if she or he is ready to realize the tremendous natural potential within and is ready to unlearn many things before real learning can begin. This realization can come about only if we are ready to build the confidence within ourselves, to distinguish between right and wrong, and stop ourselves from blindly following fast leaders. The original Indian system of education in the ashrams and gurukuls under real gurus encouraged thinking and intelligence. The true networking of great minds with exchange of real wisdom, not petty information, did happen. The word guru is derived from two words, gu meaning darkness and ru meaning destruction. So guru is a person who helps in removing darkness from the lives of peoples. He is the real leader, not the information type of fast networking type of leader. For a system to promote intelligence, the society has to be intelligent, and a society can be intelligent only in an honest system, not in a fast networked system. Our great leaders of the past have had the honesty and courage to stand up and stand by truth, though the heavens fell. For a child to grow in intelligence, parents should be a combination of being extremely strict but also encouraging rebelliousness. Children must be allowed to grow up questioning everything. Today, teacher performance in many schools is only related to copy correction syllabus completion, revision for tests? Or does it have much to do with personal and professional qualities of an educator? Or maybe call her or him a guru. The ability to love and engage so many children at the same time, ability to lead, ability to plan, take decisions, ability to challenge and take risks, ability to learn, to feel and be sensitive to all, be objective and impartial, ability to facilitate effectively in the classroom, to take care of intellectual, emotional, physical, spiritual and psychic growth of students, ability to design or select appropriate assignments and ongoing assignments, field trips and other varied exposures to bring about learning, ability to engage well with parents, to collate and analyze data related to students and design effective remedial measures for students having learning difficulties and enhanced engagements for students who are found to be exceptionally good in learning. Different students learn differently. Some learn by hearing, some learn by seeing, some learn by doing, some learn musically, some artistically, some learn alone, and some in pairs or groups. Some learn best when in natural surroundings, and some while playing or doing some activity. Every child is not born to become an engineer or a doctor or clear the MBA entrance exams. Every child is not born to become a computer programmer. Each child is unique. Parents need to realize the true potential of their child and accordingly encourage children to pursue their interests and not unnecessarily force them into merely studying. Here it is important to understand the pious aim of education. It is to help students to grow into responsible and caring adults who would contribute productively in society to bring about a harmonious and peaceful world and lead a happy, meaningful and creative life. Nature made us all creative beings. Somewhere in the process of education, we lose our creativity and our life becomes colorless and tasteless. It is quite unfortunate that we have a very narrow aim of education today, which is to force students to learn by rote and speak and write English, learn mathematics and science without understanding and superficially as fast as possible, and secure good marks, which helps one secure a seat in good colleges. Then get a high-paying job. This is unfortunately a very wrong and damaging process. We make puppets out of children with such processes. We should all join hands in favor of our children and stand against such negative processes. Instead, we should concentrate on developing human and humble values, life skills, and thus the all-round personality of the child. Of course, along with enhancing basic language, numeracy, and logical skills. We should all join hands to nurture and develop the 21st century skills of students, as also advocated by UNESCO. Can we call ourselves an evolved race or species when we look at the state of affairs today? The pollution on earth, global warming, destruction of forests in the name of development, unhealthy materialism, disharmony amongst people of various religions, crimes against women and children, pathetic and dismal state of affairs in the field of education, diminishing moral values, ethical values, and many such ills that mankind faces today. The most important question I wish to leave you with today is, are we more civilized today than our ancestors? Did the Industrial Revolution and Green Revolution do any good to us or cause more damage? My answers to most of these questions asked by me are negative. But I have only one positive feeling, and that is hope in our children and our educators, our gurus. Thank you.